You apologize to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Congresswoman, you sat before, Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Attorney General Bondi.
No, can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question that I would like you to answer, which is, will you turn to the survivors? This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done to the survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize for what your Department of Justice has done.
Members get to ask the questions, the witness gets to answer in the way they want to answer them.
The Attorney General of the United States sat 5 feet from the women she failed. They stood. They raised their hands. Every single one. And Pam Bondi, Trump's hand-picked top cop, refused to turn around. She called it theatrics. She blamed Merrick Garland. She ran out the clock. This is the woman who showed up to Congress with a binder of personal smears on Democratic members, while Epstein's actual victims waited for an apology she never had the decency to give. If that doesn't make your blood boil, nothing will. Hit that subscribe button, because this cover-up goes so much deeper.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime.
You redacted the names of abusers, enablers, accomplices, and co-conspirators, apparently to spare them embarrassment and disgrace, which is the exact opposite of what the law ordered you to do.
Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information?
Director Patel came to the committee. He admitted that up to 1,000 FBI agents had gone through the files and redacted President Trump's name from them.
The president can come after me. It's fine. I'm in the arena. So are these folks. But we never expected that the Department of Justice would not seek to prosecute and investigate those who are making threats against us. And that would include those on that side of the aisle. And I'm just asking for your help to protect life, because life is at risk with the environment we're in right now.
Attorney General Bondi, does a convicted sex offender like Ghislaine Maxwell deserve special treatment and privileges in prison? Yes or no?
Trump's name appears more times in the Epstein files than God's name appears in the book about God. Okay, by the way, this is the Trump Bible. Move over, King James. Trump's name also appears more times in the Epstein file than Harry Potter's name appears in the 7 books about Harry Potter.
Welcome, Attorney General Bondi. You've got the best lawyer's job in America, because your mission is justice and your clients are the American people. But to promote justice for the people, you've got to listen to the victims, like the women seated behind you today. Those are just some of the hundreds of survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's global sex trafficking ring who are demanding that the truth be told and are demanding accountability for the abusers who trafficked and raped them. You still haven't met with these survivors. So with their permission, let me introduce to you the survivors and late survivors' family members who are present today. There's Teresa Helm, there's Jess Michaels, Laura Bloom McGee, Danny Bensky, Liz Stein, Marina Lacerda, Sky and Amanda Roberts, who are the family of the late Virginia Giuffre, Charlene Richard, and Lisa Phillips. Now, you're not showing a lot of interest in the victims, Madam Attorney General, whether it's Epstein's human trafficking ring or the homicidal governmental violence against citizens in Minneapolis. As Attorney General, you're siding with the perpetrators and you're ignoring the victims. That will be your legacy unless you act quickly to change course. You're running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. You've been ordered by subpoena and by Congress to turn over 6 million documents, photographs, and videos in the Epstein files, but you've turned over only 3 million. You say you're not turning over the other 3 million because they're somehow duplicative, but we know that there are actual memos of victim statements in there, and you also took down the Department of Justice's prosecution memo from 2019. So it's clearly not all duplicative, but even if it were, why not release it? Just release all the duplicative stuff. In the half you did produce, you redacted the names of abusers, enablers, accomplices, and co-conspirators, apparently to spare them embarrassment and disgrace, which is the exact opposite of what the law ordered you to do. Even worse, you shockingly failed to redact many of the victims' names, which is what you were ordered to do by Congress. Some of the victims had come forward publicly, but many had not. Many had kept their torment private, even from family and friends, but you published their names, their identities, their images on thousands of pages for the world to see. So you ignored the law, and even with over 100,000 employees at your disposal, you acted with some mixture of staggering incompetence, cold indifference, and jaded cruelty towards more than 1,000 victims raped, abused, and trafficked. This performance screams cover-up.
What you just watched is not a political attack. It is a criminal indictment delivered under oath, in public, by a man who knows exactly what he is talking about. Jamie Raskin did not speculate. He cited. 3 million documents withheld, victim names published, abuser names protected. A convicted sex trafficker moved to Club Fed after 9 hours alone with Trump's personal lawyer. Every single one of those facts is on the record, confirmed, documented, undeniable. And here is what makes this worse than it already looks. Pam Bondi was not some passive bystander. She was Florida's Attorney General when Jeffrey Epstein cut his sweetheart plea deal with Alexander Acosta back in 2008. A non-prosecution agreement so corrupt it was later ruled unlawful by a federal judge. Bondi was in Tallahassee. She was running the same state where those crimes were prosecuted. She had every tool and every authority to revisit that deal when she took over as Florida AG. She did nothing. And now, 17 years later, she is sitting in the top law enforcement chair in the entire country. And she is still doing nothing for victims. Worse than nothing. Her DOJ actively protected the powerful and exposed the vulnerable. The Epstein Files Transparency Act passed with nearly every vote in Congress, 1 dissenter in the entire House of Representatives, 0 in the Senate. It was not partisan. It was unanimous outrage demanding accountability. And what did Bondi's DOJ do with that mandate? It redacted the abusers. It published the victims. It transferred Ghislaine Maxwell to a minimum security facility she was ineligible for as a sex offender, a facility reporters nicknamed Club Fed, where Maxwell reportedly dangled the threat of more cooperation in exchange for clemency from Donald Trump. Let that sink in. A convicted sex trafficker is negotiating her release terms from a comfort prison while over 1,000 survivors haven't received a single meeting with the Department of Justice. This is not incompetence. Incompetence does not have a pattern. Incompetence does not perfectly, consistently, exclusively protect the powerful while punishing the powerless. What Raskin described is a system operating exactly as designed, by people who need those names to stay buried.
And fully complied with. When Director Patel came to the committee, he admitted that up to 1,000 FBI agents had gone through the files and redacted President Trump's name from them. And it's pretty clear that what has been transmitted from the FBI continues to redact President Trump's name, even though he is mentioned.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime. That is what Pam Bondi said. Not, here is the evidence to the contrary. Not, we did interview that witness. Not, here is what my DOJ actually found. She screamed at a member of Congress for pointing a camera at a witness statement that has been sitting in FBI files while her department sat on its hands. And Representative Ross was not speculating. She was holding a document, a formal witness statement submitted to the FBI's National Threat Operations Center. A man who was physically present, who heard a phone call, who met a girl who told him what happened to her, who is now on record officially with federal law enforcement. And as of the day of that hearing, not one attorney or investigator from the Department of Justice had made contact with him. Not one. That is the cover-up in its simplest, most undeniable form. Not a conspiracy theory, not a partisan attack, a witness, a statement, a DOJ that never called. And it is all on videotape, as Representative Ross correctly noted. Every word Bondi said is on the record, every dodge, every personal attack, every moment she refused to turn around and face the women seated behind her, every second her department spent protecting abusers while publishing victims. It is all on tape. It will all be replayed. Here is where this ends. Pam Bondi was fired by Donald Trump in April 2026, not because she protected victims, not because she exposed the truth, because she was not loyal enough, not aggressive enough, not willing enough to go to war with Trump's enemies on his timeline. She was discarded, and the woman who replaced her, Trump's next instrument, will face the same committee, the same survivors, the same questions, because the survivors are not going anywhere. They have been waiting for decades. They will keep waiting, and they will keep showing up. And the next time someone asks them to raise their hand if the Department of Justice has not met with them, that hand is going up again. The only variable is whether anyone in power will be watching when it does. Share this video, subscribe. Because the moment we stop paying attention is the moment they get away with it.
I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is all on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was gonna stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and the officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized his operation. And as we say here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims.
Read that back. 1,000 FBI agents, not reviewing evidence of trafficking, not building cases against co-conspirators, not protecting surviving victims. 1,000 agents deployed to scrub a sitting president's name out of files his own administration was legally required by Congress to release in full. And Kash Patel sat before the Senate and said Trump's name appeared fewer than 100 times in those files. That is what he said under oath. We now know from the documents themselves that it is not even close to true. Representative Moskowitz put it plainly. Trump's name appears more times in the Epstein files than God's name appears in the Bible. More times than Harry Potter's name appears across all 7 books in the series. And the response from the Attorney General of the United States, when confronted with that fact live on camera, she called it a misleading factor. Not a denial, not a counter number, a dismissal, because she cannot dispute it. Now consider the full architecture of what has been built here. The Epstein files were Trump's own campaign promise. He ran on releasing them. He made it the centerpiece of his populist outsider brand. Then he got into office. His people got the files. His people reviewed the files. His people released the files, with the victims exposed and the abusers protected. His FBI director testified that up to 1,000 federal agents processed those files specifically to remove Trump's name. His attorney general showed up to Congress not with answers, but with a binder of personal opposition research on the Democrats asking the questions. And then, right on schedule, Trump fired Pam Bondi on April 2nd, 2026. Not for the cover-up, not for exposing victims, for being, in Trump's words, insufficiently aggressive against his political enemies. She wasn't cruel enough. She didn't weaponize the DOJ hard enough or fast enough. That is the only standard by which she was judged to have failed. Meanwhile, the survivors, over 1,000 of them, have still not received a single meeting with the Department of Justice. Not one. Every woman in that hearing room raised her hand to confirm it, on camera, in front of the Attorney General, who refused to turn around and face them. Representative Ted Lieu also put something else on the record that cannot be buried. DOJ blocked state and local police in Minnesota from accessing the crime scene where American citizens were killed by federal ICE agents. A court order was issued. Federal agents defied it, and Bondi's DOJ launched a criminal investigation not against the agents, but against the grieving widow of one of the victims. That is not a malfunction of justice. That is justice being deliberately inverted, pointed like a weapon at the people it was built to protect.